So I'm aware it's been literal months, but I'm finally back. I wanted to do a challenge that I don't think will be too hard, but will still be difficult. So as you can probably tell by the title, I'm going to see if I can beat Pokemon Heart Gold using one of my favourite Pokemon, Girafarig. Oh yeah, and it can't faint. Girafarig isn't the best Pokemon, but it definitely isn't bad. With 85 speed and 90 special attack, it's just a bit lackluster. But it makes up for that with a good type and move pool. Anyway, before I get into the challenge, let's go over the rules. In battle, I can only use Girafarig. I'm allowed other Pokemon for HMs, but I can't use them in combat. Like in a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. And since we've only got one team member, if it dies, we have to reset the game. And finally, no items in battle. This means I'll actually have to plan for the fights instead of just spamming potions. And with all that said, let's get on to the challenge. I decide to replace Cyndaquil, not just so our rival will have the best Jhoto starter, but because Feraligatr gets Crunch, which will do super effective damage, making the run harder. We get our Girafarig and name him Chain Chomp, because I'm positive the tail is a Mario reference. Looking at his stats, he's a relaxed nature which boosts defense and reduces speed. I'm not too upset about this because we can get agility later on and we're going to need to be a higher level to win some fights, so we're probably going to outspeed anyway. We head out to start our journey, but not before going to Cherry Grove and picking up some running shoes, meeting Mr. Pokemon and Professor Oak, and then fighting our rival. It's no surprise, but a few confusions is all it takes to take him out. We head to the Professor's lab and get accused of stealing our new Pokemon, but we correct the officer and make our way to the first city. We fight a few trainers and make it into Violet City, home of the first gym. But before we can challenge it, we need to take on the Sprout Tower. You can probably imagine that a few poison grass types is no match for our Psychic Giraffe. In fact, the only time we got hit was from Hoot Hoot's Peck, which did a whopping 4 damage. But with the Sage's Pokemon gone no problem, we finally go and take on Falkner. We're 4 levels above Pidgey, so 1 confusion is more than enough to take it out. He brings in Pidgeotto, but 1 confusion does less than half, but confuses it, as he goes for Gust. We use Stomp hoping for the kill, but we're just out of range. Luckily he does flinch, meaning that he can't attack. I was expecting him to go for a potion, but he just goes for an attack. He hits himself in confusion, and the damage from that takes the Pidgeotto down, as we get the first gym badge. After getting the badge, we're given an egg to look after. So I put it in our party until it hatches as we make our way to Azalea Town. On the way we pick up the Shell Bell. It won't be too useful, but we'll get a little bit of HP back whenever we do damage, so I guess it helps. I head through Union Cave and make it to Azalea Town, but I have to battle Team Rocket and one of their admins, Proton, in Slowpoke Well. Since he uses Poison type Pokemon, 1 confusion is more than enough to take his 2 Pokemon out. Before the gym, I decide to run around for a bit to try and hatch the egg, but then I accidentally run into our rival. He forces us to fight him and starts off with a Ghastly. It goes down in 1 confusion as he brings in Zubat. It also goes down in 1 confusion and finally is his Croconaw. Instead of attacking us, he just goes for Scary Face over and over and over, and it just lowers our speed. So in 3 confusions, we knock out his starter to win the fight with no damage taken. After the fight, we hatch our egg, and like always, it's a Togepi. We name him Subscribe, because if you've made it this far in the video, subscribing really helps me and my channel out, so I'd really appreciate it. But we do have an issue. With Bugsy and probably a few other gym leaders, I need to grind. I didn't set a level cap, but I do want to try to beat this challenge with as little grinding as possible, just so I don't go into every gym with a level 100 Pokemon. And of course, I'm not using any items, although I might change that rule depending on if it's a really weak Pokemon, but I'll just cross that line if I get there. In the meantime, I level up Girafarig to 28. This might sound like a lot, but 1 U-turn from Scyther does 50% of our health, so I'm not taking any chances. We're going to the fight with Bugsy, and he starts off with Scyther. We use 1 Psybeam and do about 3/4 of its health after he eats a berry. We get lucky because instead of U-turn, he stupidly goes for Leer, meaning 1 more Psybeam can take his Scyther out. Were we overprepared? Yes. But in this sort of challenge we need to be, so we don't have to start the game all over again. Up next is his Metapod, and we just use 1 more Psybeam to take it out. The same goes for his Kakuna. 1 more Psybeam is more than enough, and we get the Hive badge. A quick encounter with a Farfetch'd in Ilex Forest later, and we're in Goldenrod City. I decide to buy the TMs for Reflect and Protect, but these will be for later on. And finally, I go and take on the gym. Whitney's usually one of the biggest run killers in Heart Gold, but because we're 10 levels higher than the Miltank, there's not really going to be a problem. She starts out with Clefairy, but one critical Psybeam takes it out in one hit. Next is Miltank, so we use Reflect just in case as she goes for an Attract. We break through the Attract and do over half of Miltank's health, but we're immobilized the next turn as she uses Milk Drink. Luckily, we break through next turn and almost take it out, leaving it in yellow health. If we can break through Attract this next turn, we win, but it's only a 50% chance. And we hit the Miltank one final time, getting us the kill and our third gym badge. We run into a weird looking tree and then our weird looking rival in the burnt tower. He obviously wants to prove that he's gotten stronger, but we beat him without Girafarig taking any damage and then go take on the 4th gym leader, Morty. This would be scary if Girafarig was a pure psychic type, but the added normal type means we can't get hit by ghost attacks. I'm not the only person to say this, but it's so dumb that he doesn't have a Misdreavus on his team and that he only uses the Ghastly line. Speaking of, he starts with Ghastly and it goes down in one Psybeam. Next is his Haunter and it ends up with the same fate. Third is Gengar and you guessed it, one Psybeam is enough to kill it. Finally is his second Haunter, but like everyone else on his team, we take it out in one shot. You know, I really wish Morty didn't just use one line of Pokemon. If only there was a game where he, and you know, all the Jhoto leaders had a diverse team. So after the gym, we pick up Surf, allowing us to head over to what will be probably one of the harder gyms in Cyanwood. Even though we're super effective against Chuck, his Poliwrath has a pretty high attack stat and uses Hypnosis, so I give Chain Chomp a Lumberry just in case. He starts out with Primate, which goes down in only one Psybeam as he brings in his Poliwrath. Another Psybeam does about 1/3 as he uses Hypnosis. We eat our Lumberry and use another Psybeam, almost taking it out as he heals with a potion. I set up Reflect just in case he puts us to sleep and then attack one more time. Instead of attacking with Surf, he just goes for a Focus Punch, meaning one more Psybeam can get us the 5th gym badge. After a bit of leveling up and a new moveset, we take on the next gym leader, Jasmine. She starts out with a Magnemite, which is going to use Thunder Wave so she can outspeed us. But I came up with an idea. If I keep using Substitute, we can't get paralysed. But what I wasn't aware of is that she'll just keep using Thunder Wave because she doesn't actually see the sub. This means we can take out her first Pokemon with 2 Psychics. Second is her other Magnemite, which just goes for Thunder Wave again and again. And like before, it goes down in 2 Psychics, but not before we use a Reflect ready for the Steelix. We use Psychic, but like predicted, it does hardly any damage. We use one more and it eats a berry and then misses an Iron Tail. We take it to low health with Psychic and it uses another Iron Tail and breaks our Substitute as our Reflect wears off. I set Reflect back up and it uses another Iron Tail, lowering our defense. I go for another Substitute and he just uses Sandstorm. The next turn I go for Rest to get us to full health but stay asleep. Steelix misses the Iron Tail that would have killed us, and then the next turn we wake up and finally take Steelix out, winning our 6th gym badge. After Jasmine, we end up in Mahogany Town, where there's a hidden Team Rocket base located. The leader of this base is Executive Patrell, who has a Zubat, Raticate, and Coughing. Since all of these Pokemon are in their 20s, we take them out no problem, meaning we're already moving on to the next gym. This is just another reason Jhoto isn't that great. It gives you this massive open area to basically take on 3 gyms in rapid succession, and they're basically all the same level. But Price was just so easy. His Seal went down in 1 Thunderbolt. His Piloswine survives a hit from Psychic and heals, but then 2 more just take him out. And finally, his Dugong is knocked out with 2 Thunderbolts after a full restore. All we need to do now is get through a bit of story progression and we can take on the final gym. So basically, Team Rocket took over the entire radio tower and it's up to me to stop them. We run into Patrell again and he has 6 poison types. That's no problem, right? Well, Psychic only has 3 power points left, so we need to use Thunderbolt on 3 of his Pokemon. If Thunderbolt doesn't kill, all of his Pokemon can use Smokescreen and self-destruct, doing 65% of our health. I used Thunderbolt on the first Coughing, taking it out. Psychic on the Wheezing, only just taking it down. Thunderbolt on his second and third Coughing for quick knockouts. and Psychic on his last 2 Koffings to guarantee the KO. We also need to fight the acting boss of Team Rocket, Archer, who does actually have a Houndoom, but Chain Chomp easily 2-shots it with Thunderbolt. This means Team Rocket have been fully defeated and we won't be seeing them ever again. Ice Cave was really easy and we pick up Waterfall there, meaning after we've beaten the final gym, we can head into Kanto. I end up in Blackthorn City where we can take on our final test before the league, Claire. Since she's the Dragon Gym leader, it only makes sense that she starts out with a Pokemon that isn't a Dragon type, Gyarados. Luckily it's 4 times weak to Thunderbolt, so we can just take it out in 1 hit. And like with Jasmine, her Dragonairs will try to use Thunder Wave to slow us down, but if we set up Substitute like last time, we can take them both out no problem. For the first Dragonair, we use Psychic and then Light Screen as she heals. And then 2 more Psychic to take it out, and she brings in her second Dragonair. We knock it out with no damage taken by using 2 Psychics. And finally is her ace, Kingdra. I was expecting a Hyper Beam or Hydro Pump once I set up a Light Screen, but it just fails to use Smoke Screen. I'm thinking Substitute might be a bit too broken in Gen 4, so I might not use it in any more Gen 4 challenges, but we'll have to see. After that, we use 1 Psychic as it misses a Hydro Pump, and Thunderbolt brings it just low enough so that Psychic will take it out in the next turn. Like expected, 1 more Psychic gets us our final gym badge in Jhoto. Well, I mean, we need to get it from the Dragon's Den, but you get the point. We have 1 final test before the league, and that's the Komodo Girls. They aren't too difficult individually, but since we can't heal in between, it makes it a bit more challenging. Using Rest and Substitute was an effective strategy, and now we can take on the Elite Four. Okay, well, I guess we have 1 final test before the league, and that's Ho-Oh. I used the Master Ball to get it over with, and we can now take on the Pokemon League. Right after our final test, 1 more fight with Silver. I won't lie, this fight was an absolute cakewalk. Sneasel's immune to Psychic, so we take it out in 1 return. Golbat went down in 1 Psychic. Feraligatr was taken out in 2 Psychics after hitting a super effective Crunch for hardly any damage. 4th was his Haunter, but since it's a Poison type, 1 super effective Psychic did the job. Even though Magneton resists Psychic, Girafarig is 19 levels higher than it, so a Stab Psychic works out well. And finally is Kadabra, who we promptly take out with 1 return. After beating our rival and getting Girafarig up to level 60, we head in to fight the first member of the Elite Four, Will. He starts out with the Xatu at level 40 and 1 return knocks it out. He then brings in his stronger Xatu, but like with the first one, 1 return is more than enough to bring it down. Third is Executor, and we get a critical hit, meaning it goes down in 1 attack. Next is Jinx, but because we're 19 levels higher than it, we take it out no problem. And finally is his Slowbro. We can't actually take it out in 1 return, so this means it can start setting up curses. Luckily he's low enough so that 1 more hit takes him out as we beat the first member of the Elite Four. Second up is Koga and his group of poison types. He starts out with Ariados and 1 super effective Psychic takes it out. Second is his Fortress, and it uses Protect as we go for Substitute. Psychic does just under half and his Swift doesn't even break our sub. After another Protect and a full Restore, 2 Psychics and 1 return take Fortress down. Third is Muck, and even though it has alright special defenses, 1 Psychic knocks it out no problem. Next up is Crobat, and we surprisingly outspeed it and use Psychic for a quick KO. And finally is his Venomoth, but like expected we just use 1 Psychic to take out the second Elite Four member. Third is Bruno and his fighting types, but since we have Psychic, this won't be a big problem. Bruno starts out with a Hitmontop, and like explained, 1 Psychic does more than enough damage to take it down. Next is Hitmonlee, but like Hitmontop, 1 Psychic does the trick. Third is his ace Machamp, but you guessed it, 1 Psychic takes it out. Up fourth is my favourite fighting type, Onix, and even though Psychic isn't super effective against it for some reason, 1 takes it out. Up last is Hitmonchan, and with 1 more Psychic, we're able to take out Bruno's team without taking any damage, meaning we can now move on to the final Elite Four member, Karen. Even though Karen is immune to 1 of our moves, we still have no problem with her. 1 return almost takes her Umbreon out, but she uses Double Team. Luckily she doesn't heal and our second return hits, taking Umbreon down quite quickly. Second is Murkrow, who hits us with a Sucker Punch for about 80 damage, but we counter it with a return, knocking it out. Up next is her strongest Pokemon, Houndoom, who I was sure would survive a hit, but then I remembered, Houndoom's defenses suck. I'm not joking, look this up, it has a defense stat of 50. Safe to say, one return is more than enough to take it out. When I said Houndoom was her strongest dark type, I completely forgot about these two. She sends in Gengar and then Vileplume. They're weird dark types because, for some reason, instead of being immune to Psychic, they're actually weak to them. I don't know, it must be a bug. I don't question it and I take advantage of the situation, taking them both out in one hit each. Meaning we can finally take on the champion of the Jhoto League, Lance. Finally we're here, about to fight Lance with a team of only one Girafarig. He starts with Gyarados, and instead of just taking it out with a Thunderbolt, I use Reflect first. This will halve all physical damage taken. He goes for Waterfall, only doing 24 damage. The next turn we use Thunderbolt and knock it out as he brings in Aerodactyl. His Crunch crits and takes us to 6 HP as one Thunderbolt takes it out. We need to outspeed whatever comes out next to guarantee Girafarig using Rest. Luckily we outspeed Charizard and are able to use Rest, waking up after we eat our Lumberry. Thunderbolt brings him into potion range and we get hit with an Air Slash. Lance heals and we use another Thunderbolt, meaning we can take Charizard out in one more hit. I decide I'd rather be at higher health for facing Dragonite and go for Rest. This proved to be a big mistake. I get stuck in a cycle of using Rest to only wake up to need to use Rest again until I can take the Charizard out. I then end up getting defeated by Dragonite's Outrage. I refuse for this video to go the same as the ground type Nuzlocke, so I play through the entire game again with a second Dragonite that I named Two-Face. Once we're back at Lance, Two-Face is level 73, which is more than enough to beat anything Lance throws our way. Instead of using Reflect, I just go for Thunderbolt, taking Gyarados down in one hit. Since we're a higher level and have a plus speed nature, we outspeed Aerodactyl and take it out with a single Thunderbolt. I now decide to use Reflect to protect us from Dragonite's Outrage, as Charizard goes for Air Slash, doing a tiny amount of damage. Like with Gyarados and Aerodactyl, Charizard goes down in a single Thunderbolt. And now it's time for the formidable 3. His strongest Dragonite comes out and we use Thunderbolt for a bit of chip damage. Instead of Outrage, he just uses Safeguard, meaning after we're taken to half health from a Fire Blast, a Thunderbolt and a Psychic takes the strongest member of his team down. 1 down and 2 to go. Out comes his second dragon and we just use Psychic. He gets into heal range and goes for Dragon Rush, taking us down to 36 health. I thought he would heal, so I go for Rest, but he just uses another Dragon Rush for about 1/3 of our health. Luckily he goes for Hyper Beam for some reason and only takes us to 81 health. This means he needs to recharge, so when we wake up, one Psychic can knock him out. That means 2 down and 1 to go. He sends out his final dragon, and if we take this out, we prove that we can beat Heart Gold with one of my favourite Pokemon. I go for Reflect because I know that only a critical hit can take us out at this range, but weirdly enough he goes for Thunder Wave, slowing us down. He misses Blizzard due to our Bright Powder as we use Rest, healing up to full health. He lands 2 Blizzards while we're asleep, but when we wake up, one Psychic almost takes it out. Lance uses a full restore, meaning we can outspeed and use 2 Psychics, winning the battle and becoming the champion with only a Girafarig. Two-Face might have gotten us the win, but Chain Chomp was definitely the hero of this story. This challenge was so fun to do. It wasn't too difficult, but right by the end it definitely surprised me. I'd just like to say thank you for all the support, because at the time of uploading this video, I think the first Ordino solo run has about like 1,000 views, which is just insane to me. Like, thank you all so much. I know that it's not a lot, but for saying I've only got 3 videos out, it means the world to me, so thank you all so much. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like the video, comment, anything. It really does help me out. But I guess I'll see you in the next video, whenever that will be. So, bye.